Okay, guys, sorry about that, and I do apologize for any interruptions. My mom's watching the Jesus Revolution movie right now, and she might call me out to point something out to me or something. So I do apologize for any interruptions during this. This is also why I have the security camera app on right now, so I can see what's going on in the living room. Because here's the thing, I was just about to start this video, and that's when she called me out to show me something. I mean, I understand it's it's things that interest her. She wants to share it. I get that, but really, it's like you can't just wait. You know, you can't just keep it to yourself or something. I'm just saying. But again, I understand why she does it. I understand and everything. I get that. I totally get it and everything. But it's like, yeah. Can you please keep it to yourself? And so I think that's all anybody really asks. If you know what I mean. Just keep it to yourself. But she doesn't do that. Anyway, though, you're probably wondering why I have this up here, and I'm going to try to share this with other people. If I can get the link here. I know it's here somewhere. There it is. So I'm just trying to make sure I get everything here on the live stream and all that. But you see the title here. You see the title here, and I wanted to talk about this because somebody brought this up. Somebody brought this up in on Twitter, and that's basically what are some of the resolved plot points in Archie Sonic that still that still leave a bit of it's something like still leaves a bit of taste in your mouth or something, but should have been resolved. Basically, is what the question is. Basically, like, which ones do you feel should have been resolved, but they weren't? That's the question. It's like, which ones do you think should have been resolved and everything, but they weren't? And to me, there is there's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of, and again, I'm trying to find something here. Hold on. Video stats. Turn those on. No. Add stat. Yeah. It. Sorry, guys. I'm still kind of new to this on Twitter, so I do apologize. But like I said, there are basically it's a question that they were asking, they were wondering. It's like, what what areas, what should have been resolved and everything, or what plot points were not resolved and all that. And it's obvious that there is a lot of there's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of stories that didn't get a resolution pre and post, if you will. So I get where they're coming with that. I really do. I understand where they're coming with that and everything. So so when I looked at that question and everything, I was like, okay, well, what stories are there, if you will, that do need a resolution. You know, they do need that resolution and everything, that they never got and probably never will. And one of them, of course, is, and I've talked about this before with YouTube, is basically, one of them is, the Mecha Sally arc. The Mecha Sally arc was one that, you know, that had all this built to it and had everything put into it, that it didn't get a resolution. About it didn't get it didn't get a resolution to it whatsoever. It didn't get a resolution whatsoever in the comic. It didn't. It didn't get a resolution. It's like, even though I was not a fan of it, to be honest with you, I was not a fan of it, if you will. It's still a story that you put so much effort into it. You put so much effort into it. You put so much focus into it. Wanting to make it a game changer, if you will, that basically you don't get a chance to really see that through. And to me, I will admit, that is a storyline that should have had resolution. I think honestly he did want to give it resolution. In the end, he did want to give it resolution, but it was because of the lawsuits behind the scenes that caused him to, being Ian Flynn, caused him not to be able to get that resolution. Basically, prevented him from, getting, getting that closure that he was hoping for. And that, and it's perfectly understandable, even if you weren't a fan of that arc. Even if you weren't a fan of that arc, that you'd be frustrated. Like, okay, you put us through all this torture, if you will, with this story. You put us through all this torture with this story, and yet we don't get a resolution. We don't get a resolution whatsoever, and you put us through all this BS, if you will, by turning Sally into Mecha Sally and weaponizing her. It's like, where was the conclusion? And again, one could understand, okay, he couldn't do that conclusion due to the fact that, pretty much it was out of his hands. He couldn't really, give us that proper conclusion that, we were hoping for, that we wanted to see and everything. And so, so now, what are we stuck with, right? What are we, what are we stuck with and everything? And what we're stuck with basically is no, resolution, whatsoever. We're not given an opportunity to, really get that resolution, if you will, that we were hoping for. So yeah, it is frustrating that when you look at one of the more controversial story arcs that he's done or was ever done in the book, and you say to yourself, okay, why didn't we get this resolution when we should have got it? Like I said, it's frustrating to think about that. You put so much effort into it, and yet we get nothing. We get nothing in return. But yeah, I think number one, and I know it sounds like I'm rambling here, and I do apologize. I know that number one, the Mecha Sally arc is a story that should have got some kind of resolution, but it didn't. It didn't get no kind of resolution, whatsoever. And it is frustrating. It's frustrating to think that. if you know what I mean. You know, it is frustrating to even imagine a story that had so much put into it and had all these dark twists and turns and everything, and was going to tie in to, or also tie in to the whole Silver finding the traitor deal. It's like, you do all this and you don't give us resolution. You know, you don't give us, resolution, that we want. And it's again, it's not hard to understand why people feel that way. It's not hard to understand why they feel that way about it. It's not really that hard when you get down to it. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say that he didn't have an idea of what he wanted to do, and everything. He did. Obviously he did have a plan to conclude the story, but it's like, if you have an idea of how to do the stories and all that, then why didn't you give us that resolution? Is the question I think anybody has. It's like, why didn't you go there? Why didn't you just do it and be done with it? And again, I know I sound like I'm rambling because I'm trying to think about what I'm going to say next, and I'm also trying to link this live stream to a lot of places, so I do apologize. Also, like I said, my mom's watching television right now, so I want to have opportunity without interruption, hopefully, which may happen, to try to get stuff out to you guys, which is why there's a security camera on right now. But it's I get where he's coming from. I get where Anoan Arts is coming from when they ask that question. I really do. Because when you think about it, it's like, where it's like, it's like, hold on for a sec. It's like, where was, where was the resolution? Where was like our, I guess you can call it, the answers we're looking for. It's like, where were they? They were nowhere, honestly. They were nowhere. And, Mecha Sally's not the only arc, and I know I'm going on about that for like almost 15 minutes, so I do apologize. And look, it's not the only arc out there. Let's be quite honest, okay? It's not the only arc out there that, in Archie Comics has had no resolution to them. It's not the only one, okay? Let's be perfectly honest. It's not the only one. Because the other ones out there that have, no resolution, are like, let's say, it kind of coincides a little bit with the Mecha Sally arc. But, you look at, for example, the whole Knuckles thing with Thrash, if you will. You look at that whole Knuckles thing with Thrash, if you will, and you kind of put yourself, you kind of look at that and you're like, okay, obviously they wanted to build to some kind of resolution with Sonic getting back Julie Sue and his mom Linda, and that didn't happen. Obviously, that didn't happen or anything, so, and, it's understandable to see a frustration there, because it's like, okay, you took all these characters out of the equation. All right, you took all these characters out of the equation, if you will, and not only did you take them out of the equation, not only did you take them out of the equation, but you did it in a way that, obviously, obviously, if it wasn't for the lawsuit, you were going to probably bring those characters back. Now, we don't know whether or not he had this, planned from the get-go, lawsuit or not, of having the kidnapped populace, trapped in limbo for a time, and then Knuckles gets them out. I don't know if that was part of his plan or what. I can't really say. Neither can anybody else. But it's obvious that there was more to the story. There was more to the story, and Ian couldn't tell it. Ian could not tell it or anything. He couldn't tell it because of the fact. Again, going back, it was the lawsuit. The lawsuit basically prevented, Ian from doing the story, doing the story the way he wanted. But even if that wasn't the case, that still was a very unresolved situation, because you could have had something like that resolved, if you will. You could have had something like that resolved within the span, ladies and gentlemen, of just a few issues, even before everything went, out the window. You could have had that easily resolved, but that never happened. It never happened or anything. It was, it was more along the lines of, okay, here you are, it's like, okay, here you are, and everything. Here's the story, enjoy, and yet you don't give it a resolution. That to me, I think, is what made a lot of people mad. It's like, you did not give it a resolution, when you could have. You didn't give it, a resolution when you could have. And I think that's what upset a lot of fans. The fact that you didn't give it that resolution, that fans were hoping for. They were hoping for that resolution. They were hoping for something, that would, solve that situation, just like, the whole, the whole Mecha Sally thing. Give us a straight answer, if you know what I mean. But, we never got that. And, and again, it is frustrating. It is frustrating in all that to kind of see that. I mean, you look at the picture here, and there's a lot of stories that didn't get no resolution. Of course, the Mecha Sally arc one, like I mentioned, and kind of blabbed on about, and I do apologize for that. Or, the whole, or like I said, the whole, Knuckles Echidna situation with Thrash, the Tasmanian Devil. But then we also look at other plot points that were thrown out there, as well. We look at other, other plot threads, that were thrown out there, as well. And you look at those and you're like, well, again, going back to the Knuckles thing, you're like, well, couldn't they have been resolved and everything? Couldn't they have been, taken care of? It's like, what's going on? Like, what's happening, right? And again, there was no real answer. There was no real answer, even to the simplest of ones. I mean, you could have resolved, Joffrey getting possessed by Nagas. You could have found a way to resolve, the destructive, what is it, the suppression squad, or whatever they call it, the destructors, the anti-freedom fighters, and whatever they had planned. And obviously it was going to involve the anti-version of Tails. you could have resolved the whole situation with Scourge probably wanting to do his own thing and not do what Fentivius wanted, and all that. You could have had all this resolved easily, in the span of universe, in the span of the main book. You could have had this all resolved, but it never happened. They never went there, and again, you look at all these storylines, and then even post soft reboot or post reboot, if you will, there are stories there. There are stories there, like, why didn't, like, is there a connection to that new version of Snively and Eggman? It's like, is there something new there, between them and everything? It was like, is there a relation there, and everything? Did anybody, like, even plot points that were not brought up but could have been, were not, like, they could have been resolved. They could have been addressed. Like, okay, everybody except for Knuckles gets the memories back of the old world. Why not Knuckles? Why not at least hint at the fact of he knew certain people, he had a certain soulmate and everything. Why not give him back his memories? You know what I mean? Why not go there? Why not explore more about Nicole and her relationship with Dr. LED, and pretty much have Nicole, come back and accept him as, her father? I mean, we pretty much do get that idea in Spark of Life, but, why don't you do another story where he comes back? There's a bigger connection between the two, and maybe that's where you have her just come out and accept her as her father, because she knows who she is. She now knows, who she is and who she was based on. Why not go that route? Why not go with it? To me, it just, it had the opportunity to really be more than what we were given. Honestly, it had that opportunity to be more than what we were given. But there are definitely, there are definitely, I do apologize for any low latency, any buffering. I do apologize. I think my computer is loading right now. It likes to load, and basically that interferes with the internet. So obviously it's trying to do whatever it's got to do. I really wish they would just bring up little messages saying, hey, don't do anything for the next certain minutes or whatever, because we're doing maintenance or doing something, But look, I again, I know I sound like I'm rambling here and everything, and I do apologize. But I get this question of, what are some of those unresolved plot points, in Archie Sonic that, still leave. I think what it says, what are some of those unresolved plot points in Archie Sonic that still leave you feeling frustrated that didn't get a proper resolution? I get that. I get that. I totally do. I mean, there is a lot, outside of, on both ends of the spectrum, I should say. Both ends of the spectrum. In pre-Sonic, if you will, basically in pre-Sonic, or pre-Genesis Sonic, if you will, pre-reboot, you had Bunny going off to get her cybernetics, basically get legionized so she could be the way she was before. Because she was accidentally de-roboticized by Nagus and his crystal magic. So, so why not, what happened to that follow-up? What we were going to get from that? You know what I'm saying? You see, a lot of people wanted an answer to that, but they never did. I mean, we got a silhouette of her at the end of the Mighty and Ray Sonic Universe story, and that was it. That's all we got. That's the only clue we ever got. We didn't get anything else. So, so to me, it's like there are so many privileged, story arcs out there that didn't get a resolution, plot points that didn't get a resolution, that should have gotten some. I mean, we talk about romance in the comics sometimes, and this is one of the things that Ian said he didn't want to deal with anymore. But when you look at romance in the comics, and I always talk about sometimes Tails being the ladies' man, and he is. There's no doubt he is. But you look at that but you look at Tails, and you look at the fact that he potentially had a love interest, not just in Fiona, but he had a love interest not just in Mina either. If you take the whole 25, 30 years later thing as canon in some way, in some capacity, but he actually had a love interest in Barbarai the koala. He had a love interest in her because she liked him. I mean, what is it? What was it? Issue 60 or 60? 60, I think? 61? She, him and Sonic arrive in Down Under, the equivalent, the Mobius equivalent of Australia. And how does she greet Tails? She greets him by hugging and kissing him. And then she blows a kiss to him at the end when him and Sonic are leaving. And Sonic mentioning that she really digs him to Tails, and Tails is like, "Oh, you really think so? Good, I want to see her again. Oh, I hope to see her again." It's like, you didn't have a resolution to that, and you could have. You could have had a resolution to where basically maybe they do become an item, but it's a long distance relationship, but it's one that's not going to, basically have any trust issues or whatever. You know what I mean? The point is, you had so many opportunities with plot points that did not get resolved, even from the romantic kind, that it does, looking back on it, it is frustrating. It really is. I mean, again, going back to the Mecha Sally situation, fans wanted a resolution to that. They wanted a resolution to that, but they never got it. I mean, yeah, pretty much what we were hearing, and pretty much Ian Flynn in a way was confirming. Yeah, all that sounded great and everything. It felt nice to look forward to. But we never got a resolution. We never did. And to me, that is the most frustrating thing there, because you had all these things lined up, whether they were last minute ideas, already planned out, whatever. You had all these things lined up, and you never got a chance to, fulfill them. I mean, again, as I mentioned earlier, you take the Silver arc, the arc for Silver trying to find a traitor, and you integrate that into the Mecha Sally story, so that you have pretty much the answer, to Silver's, question of who was the traitor. Pretty much we already knew who it was going to be the moment we saw what happened to Sally. We pretty much knew it, and let's not fool ourselves. We know that there's been a lot of moments in the comic, post, pre-Ian Flynn, present Ian Flynn, whatever, that led us all to believe that if there was going to be a traitor, that Silver was going to discover, it was all that basically all clues were leading towards Sally, nobody else. It was all leading towards Sally, and everybody knew that. Everybody knew that. It was all leading towards her. That's the thing. It was all leading towards her. And again, like I said, you never got real resolution, because obviously the resolution would be Silver finally, finally accomplishing his goal, helping to save Sally, restore her to normal, stuff like that. It's like he would have finally accomplished his goal. And then even if she got back her free will before robotization, he could explain that, yeah, you're the one that, not of your own accord, caused my future to go down the toilet. And, again, there's just so much potential that was not achieved. I mean, yes, they did try their best. Without a shadow of a doubt. They did try their best to work around this. They did their best to try to work around this and say, okay, we have to reboot the universe. We have to bring these characters back, but how do we work around what we had to leave on the drawing table? What do we do? Well, you pretty much use Nicole, which again, when I first read the story, I kind of knew she was going to be the key, the Deus Ex Machina key to this. You bring her in, have her use what Genesis Wave got put into her to restore everybody's memory, and that's how you kind of work around it. You work around it by having pretty much Sally, even for an issue or so, kind of be very doubtful of her actions because of what she did, because she remembers what she did, in the previous life. And she's ashamed of it. But you have the person to help restore her memory, comfort her, and say, hey, hey, get that out of your head. Get that out of your head. We're all adjusting, trying to balance out memories from both worlds. But get what happened to you as Mecha Sally out of your head. You got friends that are here to support you. You in this world were the reason that Dulcie and Loop became who they are. So don't go out of your way. So don't basically, cause yourself so much grief, if you will, because of something you did in a previous lifetime. In a previous lifetime that you have the memories of right now. Don't put yourself in that scenario. And again, I'm glad, and look, I'm glad they tried to resolve it in that manner, but still, a lot of people would have loved, pretty much they would have loved, in my opinion, a foregone conclusion. Not just with that story, the Mecha Sally story, but with all stories that have been put in that category when it came to Archie Sonic. They wanted a resolution, and they never got it. And looking back on the comics, that's what makes it frustrating for them. It really does. Hopefully IDW, doesn't go through that. I mean, the sales, depending on who you believe, may not be where they should be, but IDW Sonic is probably the most popular and best-selling comic they have. So hopefully Ian Flynn, Evan Stanley, and all of them do not have to go through the same scenario with the fans when it comes to IDW. Hopefully whatever they have planned, gets followed through, gets a proper conclusion, and we go from there. And leave it at that. But that's all I'm going to really say, guys, on this live stream. Thank you for joining me here on Twitch. You will get a Spotify version of this. It's my BW Roses discussions. And next week, along with some other videos here on Twitch, you will get it on YouTube as well. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Check out all the links in the biopic and everything. I do not know what happened there just now. I do apologize. Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. I think my computer decided to do a big load. Basically, it's a big loading thing and everything. It might be loading something and everything. Probably doing a virus scan or whatever. I do apologize for that, for any interruption there. But again, like I said, check me out at all the links below in the description, in the profile as well. To find me elsewhere at my Teespring store, as well as check me out at like I said, BW Roses discussions on all of your favorite audio podcast locations, but more specifically on Spotify, where you will get a version of this over there, and also you can find me on YouTube. Right now, I cannot upload, post, or anything like that, the way I used to, because I'm suspended up until at least very late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. But like I said, when that's lifted, you will get a plethora of videos that I've done live streams of here on Twitch, and also posted on VENMO as well over there. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Comment if you like. Let me know if I've missed anything, and I will talk to you all later. Peace